What is up, guys? We are back in our little chaotic corner with John Lawyer. What is up?
Not much, Heather. How are you?
Good, good. Okay, so we're just gonna dive right into it.
Let's do it.
So how did you get from where you started to here, basically?
It's a good question. I love that question. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. It was a town of about 8,000 people. Uh, and, that was a whole experience. Grew up Southern Baptist. Didn't love it.
Same.
Yeah, didn't love it.
No.
Had so many questions that weren't answered. I spent a lot of time in the hallway with my Bible, just like not, kicked out of Sunday school or whatever. So, uh, I wanted to get out of Oklahoma. I appreciated my community. I had a pretty good childhood.
Hmm.
I lived by myself for a couple years in high school, and I decided that after high school, I didn't really want to go to college. I knew it wasn't for me. It'd probably be a waste of time and money for everybody involved. So
Hmm.
I joined the Army straight out of high school. This had been like the year 2000, so about a year before 9/11,
Mm.
and joined as a counterintelligence special agent. By the time all my training's done, I get to my first permanent duty station. The war kicks off about 6 months later, and so I would spend about 2.5 years of my 5 year enlistment in Kuwait, and then as I got out, and excuse me, excuse me,
You're totally
um,
good.
and I did the same thing as a civilian for the next several years. So out of the first 15 years of my adult life, I probably spent 12 years in Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan. 6.5 of those years was consecutive in Kandahar, Afghanistan. So that was a pretty intense
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, uh, there's high grade trauma, the events that happen, attacks, stuff like that. There's
Hmm.
always that low grade trauma. You don't really
Hmm.
realize it at the time. It's always that you end up and you're like, oh, I'm in a boiling pot of water. Okay, I didn't have that happen. Um,
Right. You kind of can't think about it until you're out of it and you're like, oh, holy shit.
yeah. So after those 15 years, I was lost. I didn't have an identity. I was like, who am I?
Right.
I was this like important person. When I walked in a room, people wanted to know what I had to say, and like I moved aircraft around and told people where to go capture people and drop bombs, uh, and now here I am, like just hanging out, Joe Citizen, and my job was my identity. It was like my purpose, and I didn't kind of realize it was my higher purpose at the time, but it was. I didn't even know that. But I didn't have a purpose anymore, so I didn't know who I was, and I knew I needed to
Hmm.
heal, but I didn't know how to do that. My wife had
Mm.
been with me the whole time. She did the same job that I did, and so we've been married for 20 years now. But so we were both broken,
No.
a couple of broken human beings trying to figure the world out.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a blessing in disguise that you guys did the same job, though, because you understood it.
Oh, it is. I mean, it's got more upside than downside because a lot of
Hmm.
times when soldiers and people come home from combat, they don't the other loved one tries to understand them and they try to deeply understand them, but
Hmm.
there is
You're not
that
gonna.
disconnect,
You're not
and
gonna
that's
unless you've
hard.
literally been there.
Yeah, so we both understood it. We've both been through that darkness, been a part of that darkness, and so that was the positive thing. We both understood each other. We were kind of both broken and not very good adults. Plus, like I
Hmm.
joined straight out of high school, so I had never grown up. Right, like people don't
Right.
understand. Like you're in this institution, the U.S. military industrial
Yeah,
complex.
that's what I was gonna say. It's almost like, yeah, you're an adult and you have free will, but you don't really have free will until you're like fully out, and then it's like, what do I do now? So how was that transition? Because I was just thinking about that. Like, how did it go from being a kid and being told what to do, and then being in the military and being told when to basically eat, sleep, shit, breathe, and then
Yeah,
it's just like, okay, whatever you want to do now, and it's like, what? Like, how was that transition?
that was hard. It
I
was
bet.
like I said, I had no direction. I was just kind of
Right.
wandering around. That's how I describe it. I wandered around for seven
Yeah.
years. Like I would eventually have this spiritual experience that
Right.
I moment of clarity or awakening over 2 years ago now, and it was this like bolt of lightning. And there were some definite things that led to that. Events in my life,
Hmm.
I can look back and be like, oh, this led to that, and this led to that. Okay, but for me, it was unexpected. I wasn't on a spiritual path. I wasn't looking or searching. I think we're all on a journey, whether we know it or not, right? Like,
Oh,
but I didn't know it,
absolutely.
right? I didn't know it,
Absolutely.
and so this happens to me, and like I feel this oneness with the universe, this
Hmm.
loving kindness, like I knew what my higher purpose was, to go help people help themselves find their wholeness inside, their light, even if they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
see it. I knew I wanted to create a nonprofit online community where people could share their journeys. I could share mine, regardless of religious or spiritual background. We could just work together and hang out. And but I didn't know the vocabulary. I didn't know how to have a conversation about it
Right.
necessarily, because it was this. So I had to go like learn how to just talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's talk about it then. Like, what was that spiritual awakening?
It it was it was pure peace. It was, and as I
Oh, I
think
love that.
one of the things that led to it, I believe, is a few years before that,
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of let go and surrendered, not of life, but just of everything attached to all the BS, the past, the future, expectations, all this stuff all this society stuff, this noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of let go of all of them and been like, you know what, I don't care. Um, I think that surrender had kind of helped me get to that point, and so I
Oh,
think there was this
absolutely.
deep acceptance and letting go was part of it.
Yeah. Okay. Totally makes sense. I completely understand where you're coming from actually, because I'm on my own spiritual journey. It's a little more on the witchy side, but you
I love
know,
the witchy side.
we love the witchy side over here. Okay,
I
like
love the witchy side. I'm a huge fan of the witchy side.
we love it. Okay, the crystals are really pretty. I don't want to hear it, but like,
They're the
people are
I'm
like, you just
holding
play with rocks. I'm like,
I'm
okay,
holding
and
I'm holding Tiger Eye right now. So
oh, tiger eye is one of my favorites.
yeah, so
Amethyst is my favorite, like my absolute favorite. But yeah,
yeah,
tiger's eye is a very close second. It's so
so
pretty. That and moss agate, those are
yeah,
moss agate is just
yeah.
beautiful.
So I'm
But those
fully
just
down with the
like,
witches.
oh yeah, we love it. We love it because I also grew up like Baptist slash Southern Baptist, like homeschooled in church, all of that. Like I actually just finished watching Has Been Hotel, and that like I don't. Do you know that show at all or no?
I don't.
Oh my god, you gotta watch it. It's on
I'll check
Amazon
it out.
Prime. It's like it's an animated. It's like 8 episodes that are like 20-25 minutes long, so you can literally binge it in a day. But it was rather interesting watching it because it brought up a lot of like, well, not only like family issues and stuff like that, but like a lot of religious stuff that I was just like, oh, holy shit. So I'm like 32, like on this, like I'm totally healed from the church bullshit. And then this show comes on and I'm like, oh, just kidding. There's a thing or two I got to work through. But so
Yeah,
you, so we're all on our own like healing journeys, whether depending on how much religious trauma you do or don't have, or even if you don't, like, we're all on our own thing that we're uh, not unpacking, deconstructing. But
sure.
you are, we had chatted before, obviously. So you're a omnist.
Hmm.
What is that, and what is the difference between that and a universalist?
So they're very similar,
Right.
uh, and essentially they both believe that all religions are valid, all spiritual constructs are valid, philosophy, self help, whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
atheist. It's all valid. We should be able to practice that right next to each other and understand that our individual belief is going to be fiercely personal and individual to us, but
Ooh, yeah.
we can still celebrate it with the collective and as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what omnists are. The reason I mainly call myself an omnist versus a universalist, which I also use that term, but I mainly is to differentiate between like universal Unitarians, because that's a little bit different than, it's very similar to that kind of, but
Right.
a little bit less political. And I'm kind of out of politics, and
I'm
I
all set
believe in
with
social
politics.
justice, but I'm not
All
committed to
set
it. You
with
know what I mean?
politics.
So it's just within omnism, within universalism, I have my own beliefs. I subscribe heavily to Hinduism. I like the Tao and Taoism and some indigenous practices of Native Americans that I don't practice myself, but help inform my own practice. So it's
Right.
kind of like a buffet of this works and this works, because we're all saying the same thing.
We are, and a lot of people don't realize that it's all kind of
Yeah,
ridiculously similar. But everybody's like, no, mine's right, no, mine's right, and it's like we could all be wrong.
yeah, we're all
This is
right.
just what you're called to. So this is what I'm called to. Let's just call it. Like,
Yeah, Yeah, like what if a Hindu, a Christian, and a pagan all walked into a bar and just had a conversation?
literally. I mean, half of paganism is Christianity, but
Yeah.
like we're not ready for that conversation yet.
No, no, we're not.
I'm over here like, oh yeah, Easter has to do with the lunar calendar, but yeah, paganism is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I'm
think
that
we're working. I
person.
mean, I think those barriers of Judeo-Christian society are coming down. It's a slow process,
Slowly,
but
very
it's
slowly,
happening. It's
but
happening.
which is very nice to see, honestly,
Yeah.
as a former church kid that was very much in my youth group and all of that because yeah.
Yeah.
Youth group in the early 2000s was wild.
Oh
Absolutely
man.
wild.
Yeah.
It really was. But what I mean, you kind of answered it, but like what made you sorry. What like drew you to is it ominism? Like is
Omnism.
that
Yeah.
the yeah.
Yeah.
What drew you to that over the rest of them? Because you've kind of like you've sort of glossed,
And
but like what was it?
in my when I had my moment of awakening, my spiritual clarity or understanding, whatever you want to call it, like
Mm-hmm.
that was my biggest thing that occurred to me was the oneness of the universe. The
Mm.
oneness, this very pantheistic take that I am that and you are that, so we are that together. And
Ooh,
you
yes.
know, you and I are sitting here having a conversation with ourselves, basically, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, and so I felt in omnism and universalism, I felt like I could embrace everything because like there's all this great thought from around the world and throughout history and time that uh what Jesus Christ was saying, what Buddha was saying, what the yogis say in Hinduism. It's like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it's whether you're reading the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or you're reading the Pali Canon, it's the same
Yes.
message. Loving kindness. It's love yourself, love your neighbor as you would love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All those things. And so I felt like I have to respect everyone, and I can't accept that we like if I go talk to my neighbor and we're politically or ideologically different,
Mm-hmm.
we still probably agree on 90% of things in life. We want
Mm-hmm.
healthy community, we want happy children and security and all these things that every human wants. And
Right.
so if we agree on 90%, why are we going to be divided by that 10%?
Yeah, that is the thing, especially with today's politics in general. It's just so divisive, and it's like we all want mostly the same thing. So why don't we focus
Yeah,
on the most that we agree with?
right.
You know,
Exactly. A
everything's
very
just so divisive
love your neighbor,
lately.
you know.
Yeah, like how about a little bit of compassion for everyone because we're all human.
Yeah.
We're all doing our best over here.
Yeah.
Most of us
It's
are doing
hard.
our best.
It's hard.
Some of us are half-assing it, but most of us are doing our best.
Right.
So, oh my God, I'm like, I just had a question with what you were saying, and now I'm
I know how
blanking
that goes.
because the ADHD is ADHDing today. Oh,
I
that's what
get
it
it.
was. So your nonprofit,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
So when we formed it, we knew the name was important. So we settled on Kishar. It's the Sumerian goddess of Mother Earth or Gaia,
Mm-hmm.
that divine feminine energy. And I felt like we're not in nature, we are nature kind of situation.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, and so we wanted a place where we still believe that there's room for authentic, meaningful connection in the digital age. There's a place just like you and I are having a great conversation
Right.
right now. That's very doable, and community. We need a place where there's community where um, we don't. This doesn't have to be lonely. Life doesn't
Yeah.
have to be lonely. There's a place where we can connect with people. So we wanted to create a place where there could be conversation, meditations, affirmations, just conversation prompts. Hey, let's talk about this today. Let's have Zoom calls once or twice a week on issues and just talk about it. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're Hindu or you're Christian or you're New Age spiritualist. It doesn't matter. We can all have a conversation, and all you need to be is kind and have an open mind, and that's pretty easy.
Yeah, for sure. Have you found that when did you start that?
I started working on it over 2 years ago. We didn't go live. We went live fall of last year,
Oh, very
so
nice.
pretty recent.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's been like a while, did you find? I was gonna ask like if you found that the pandemic made digital easier, I guess, or like
It did.
more.
I mean, we
Yeah,
haven't been around that before that, but it did make
yeah,
things easier.
yeah, it definitely did. Like I have a Facebook group for the podcast that's somewhat for the podcast, but also people that are in there are because of the podcast. So it's like I just wanted to build a community of people that were just as passionate about mental health as I was.
Right.
And that, you know, I may not be able to be there for literally everybody, but there's somebody in the group that, you know, may have gone through a similar experience
Exactly.
with somebody posting
Yep.
in there being like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And it's like, I may not have gone through that, but somebody in the group may have that like has the mental capacity to be like, let's talk about it. And just building that community of support and feeling like they're not alone in all of it, because that was the whole point of this podcast, is to bring people on that, you know, might resonate with somebody that felt alone. So
Yeah.
that was the whole part of the group. So I'm guessing that's, which is exactly what you were doing with that. Now, how can you find that whole, that, where can you find all of it?
Yeah, our main community site is kishar.org, KISHAR.org, and that's the entrance to our community. It's got our social handles. It's got a link to our YouTube channel, which is very open and hopefully helpful for people. It's a pretty cool channel.
Right.
And we also offer individual spiritual guidance and coaching. And I call myself a spiritual guide, and I'm also a student, but in more complex terms, I guess I'm a higher purpose and transformational coach. People are
We
more
love that.
resonate more with that, but yeah, it's just it's like I said, it's nonprofit. All the proceeds go back into membership, and I don't take a salary. The founders don't take salaries, so it's
That's always good to hear.
giving back to the world.
Exactly. And the best way we can, really.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like the more we build community in general, the better this planet is for it. Because I think
so
that's what we've
much.
really been missing in the last few years, is just like a feeling of community and a feeling of, I don't even know what the word is. I guess community. I was thinking of it. I'm like trying to think of a different word. Camaraderie. I don't know.
I think community camaraderie. I think yeah, they both apply, right? Like it's that
Right.
yeah, it's that connection to something besides ourselves
Yeah.
that makes this easier. Like life doesn't have to be like a trudge and difficult. It can be this thing that is peaceful and calm and uh sometimes the journey is going to necessarily be lonely, but it doesn't most of the time have to be.
That's the thing. Like life is going to be tough sometimes, but you don't have to feel like you're doing it by yourself.
Right.
Because
For sure.
I know, especially in this day and age with like hustle culture and people just jumping into their own things, it can feel very isolating. Because I know I felt isolated. I mean, I even doing this podcast, I felt isolated because I'm like, I literally don't leave my house on days that I'm doing this. So it's like, you know, I have my group, but then, you know, I'll like post in the Facebook group and people will be responding and I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Like
Right.
this is still like an okay thing.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's in and the more people get into it, the more they realize, oh, this is this good thing. There's other people that don't think exactly like me, but we have some overlap. And
Exactly.
I mean, that's important to be able to express yourself in ways that people receive. And there's like the whole idea of reciprocity, right? Like I give
Mm-hmm.
this and you give that, and we give and take, and it's this kind of very natural process.
Yeah. It's like a different kind of bartering system.
Yeah, like the best
Like,
kind. Yeah,
yeah, literally the best kind. You know, you're just bartering not goods and services technically. You're just bartering like emotional support kind of deal, which is always fantastic. So what is next for you for the nonprofit? Like what are the big plans?
this is what I do every day. Is I work on
Right.
that. So it's just try to find an audience, keep growing, and try to help people be whole inside and help themselves. I'm really just want people to if I can help someone on their journey get to a more peaceful place quicker than I did, then that's a good thing. people can share things with me that help me out. So that's nice as well. That's
Yeah.
self-love and self-care and personal development.
Yeah.
But I think it's about growing the community, and we're going to do some in-person physical retreats and stuff moving ahead, and
That's so fun.
some human connection there directly. So yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah. So, and just to kind of tie into what this whole podcast is about, how has your mental health like improved since you've found your niche, your place, kind of thing?
Tremendously. I think when you find that alignment of mind, body, soul,
Mm-hmm.
which can sound cliche, but is really important.
Oh, it's so
Uh,
important.
yeah, you you start to understand that there's these traumas and these darkness that you've had these attachments to, that you can kind of detach from, and you can then
Mm-hmm.
accept that it's still part of you, and that it's not ever going to not be a part of you, and that's okay. It's like there's that deep acceptance of that mental health struggle. And I mean, I think we're moving into a more authentic society where you even see people like professional support service people and coaches and everyone say, I'm not perfect. I have struggles. I have
Mm-hmm.
days that aren't good. I'm not always what I look like on YouTube or Instagram or
Right.
whatever. It's hard sometimes, but it gets easier, and you become more intentional. You become more aware, and it makes that process of transitioning out of that darkness and pain and suffering easier.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So, one last question. How do you take care of yourself on days that you're just not feeling 100%, or you've had somebody in the community come to you and you're just like you've used a lot of yourself, like working with them and helping them? Like, how do you take care of yourself on those like meh days?
I try to take time for myself. I try to rest when I need rest. I try to pace myself. I try to remember that we have more time each day than we think we do, and to try to make use of that
Mm-hmm.
and carve some time out for myself. And I also try to keep in mind and understand that I'm living my purpose, my dharma, my higher purpose. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. That makes everything much better, because it's a natural thing. You feel like you're in the flow of the universe, that you're dancing with the rhythm of the universe. So it
Mm-hmm.
makes those days where things are hard, and there are definitely those days.
Yeah.
Uh, it makes it easier, because it makes me I be able to tell myself, this is what you were meant to do, and you love doing it, so it's okay. So it's just sometimes telling myself it's okay.
That's honestly incredibly validating, considering we spend a lot of, no, I mean, we spend so much time like trying to tell ourselves it's fine, you just need to get over it, it's fine, and you just telling yourself like it's okay is like we need to be kinder to ourselves.
Yeah, self-love, it's everything. You got to
Yeah.
start with self-love. If you don't start with self-love, then this whole grand experiment will not end well.
Nope. Nope. So just to reiterate, where can we find you?
Yeah, again, our website is kishar.org. It's KISHAR.org, and that's kind of our main landing page. There's monthly membership. There's our individual coaching stuff, and uh, like I said, we're doing this because we want to give back to the world. We just want
Mm-hmm.
people to be empowered within themselves. No one's looking to tell anybody what to believe or how to believe it. It's all
Right.
a journey. So
I love that. Well, John, thank you so freaking much for taking the time out and coming on here and chit chatting, because this has been very enlightening.
yeah, I love your podcast. I appreciate the message that you're
Thanks.
putting out in the world. It's so important. It's so needed. So
Thank
thank you for what
you.
you do as well.